I am so excited to talk to you today about burnout because the more we delve deeper into this topic, the more we learn about it. Did you know that there are different types of burnout? So, I have a question for you. Which types are you seeing in your workplace? There is the overload burnout. Now, tell me about it. How many of you are feeling overloaded at work today? This is really it's driven by relentless pressure, unrealistic deadlines, nonstop urgency. We're just always going, a treadmill, we're always going, right? So why do we miss burnout? Maybe it's because I can't even spell the word. Maybe it's because we're always going, we don't have time to pause, to stop and say, oh, hmm, I'm not quite sure. Maybe it's because we don't have time to even understand what's happening around us or to see what's going on in our lives until it's too late. So I've been sharing my story of how I experienced burnout. Like, I mean, mine was not silent. Like most people just get sick quietly and nobody knows. No, 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 not for Joyce. Mine was on a plane, an airline flight from Toronto to Orlando. Of course, it had to be in the States where it's going to cost me over $50,000 US. But that was a very expensive burnout lesson, right? You don't want to have that kind of burnout lesson, right? It is not funny. Thank God for insurance. Right? You don't want to have that kind of burnout. And so I feel compelled to share my story and to tell you that the reason why I do well-being and resilience, it's not because I just get up one day and decided that that was the best thing to do on the planet. Of course, I see it all the time. I see it in my work with leaders, high achievers, because we have so much to do. Life is short. We have a lot to do, but it can be even shorter when we don't pay attention to our bodies. And that is the challenge. So I went looking at what are some of the actual types of burnout, and overload burnout is one, and then under challenge burnout. Did you know that you can rust out? This is under challenge. So we talk about overload. So this is when we overload our system. We're going, running high, always going, never stopping, always something, a new deadline, a new pressure, we're overextending ourselves and forgetting that we're only physical human beings. And then there is the under challenge burnout. Yes, there is that. Under challenge. These are people who are not challenged. They are burning out because of boredom. I don't know. Well, maybe I do know some people, but it's just something I don't understand, because those of us who are high achievers, we're always going. We can't even, to us it doesn't comprehend. Even if nobody gives us something to, we'll find something to do. so so if you're an overachiever, you don't understand the under challenge burnout. And if you are going through the under challenge, you don't understand the high achievers. Like, why are you always doing something? Can't you just chill? Right? So there is that type of burnout. So it's caused by boredom, stagnation. Do you know if you're doing the same thing all the time, you can burn out? You stagnate, you're not growing. Humans are meant to grow. We're meant to do. So someone who is in a job doing the same automated thing all the time, of course, AI is coming, so we'll have less of that. But it's here, not coming. AI is here, and it's slowly integrating, so we can remove some of these monotonous elements of our jobs that make us go brain dead. Like, that is rusting out. Your brain cannot keep up with, your brain is stagnated. There is nothing, no energy, right? Lack of growth. So if you're stuck in that fixed mindset, you can burn out from that. Have mercy, right? If you're doing work that feels meaningless, you're doing work that just, there is no emotional engagement, no passion to your work, then you find that you can have burnout from that. So sometimes when we talk to organizations about burnout, they're like, oh, we have so much. But there are also those departments, and it may not be all, but I've been to some departments where people are rusting out. They have nothing to do. They are bored and they are not being challenged. And these are really brilliant people who would love to have more challenge in their life, but in their jobs, they don't have that. And this happen in particular industries. So think about yourself in your workplace. If you are in one of those industries where you have a lot of bureaucracy, you may want to look at, are my people burning out because of lack of interest, motivation, emotional connectivity to the work, or meaningless automation, or long list of documents and policies that can be very overwhelming when they feel that there is no meaning to their work and there's no passion or purpose. Then there is neglect burnout. And this happens when people feel unsupported, confused, or unable to meet the expectations because of they're in a maybe chaotic environment, or they've lost confidence, they feel defeated, and they've lost hope. And that can happen when you lose. And when we look at the 9 dimensions, we see that in the spiritual dimension, this is where things like purpose, meaning, values align. And so when we put employees and leaders through the with resilience platform and get them through that assessment, we can pull out those kinds of things, meaning and purpose and values and vision, because these are some of the invisible ones that are hidden. It's not easy to see those ones, and they can often be a challenge for your workplace. They can often be a challenge for you in your organization and with your employees. So think about that. Go through and certainly DM me if you're looking to do a year-end evaluation for your employees. You want to check in. This is a great time to think about how did my employees go through the year? What 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 value add did they get from their work? Are they burning out and I'm not aware of it? Is there something I can do to help them uh, to stay more focused? This assessment will give us those answers, and then we can now recommend and align the different elements that needs to happen to build up those competencies so they can be more engaged. Because when you tell me your employees are disengaged, I start asking myself, this is just a symptom. What is hidden? What is underlying that we're not seeing? You're seeing the disengagement, but I'm looking at what's beyond, what's underneath the surface. What's causing that disengagement? And how do we address the actual problem, not just the symptom? So you are looking, oh, we're going to have a 1 day workshop and training, and people are going to be engaged again for how long? Maybe for the duration of the workshop. But when we go through the Wiz Resilience platform and we can uncover those underlying elements, those things that are in the workplace that are causing employees to be disengaged, then we can pull out and we can get to the root cause to see what some of those things are. Because initially, when we talk about burnout, most of us are thinking of things like compassion fatigue, or thinking probably empathy overload. These are the types of burnout that we're more familiar with because we've heard a lot more about them. Compassion fatigue is that emotional exhaustion that first responders feel, and with a family that's in law enforcement, is something that I've always paid attention to, even for myself as a conflict analyst, always in other people's conflict. It's something that I've paid attention to. So it's very important for us to recognize that and get to a place where we can respond to these kinds of situations more. How do we know someone is in compassion fatigue? Well, they're caring for someone, caregivers, right? If you're caregiving, for instance, you may have a full-time job and you're caregiving for a family member, elderly parents, maybe a special need family member or child, or neighbor or community person that you have, and then you start to see the balance. I know for myself, uh over and above my major burnout episode where I crashed on, passed out on the plane in 2015, I've since then my radar has gone up and I've always been paying attention. And I remember when my aunt got sick. Now my elderly aunt, she was in her late 70s. She had no children. I was her main go-to. And then she got sick and got dementia. And all of a sudden I had that responsibility to now take care of another person's whole life and get them to a place where they can live out the rest of their life in dignity and possibly die with dignity. So this is a big responsibility. There's a lot of things to do. And I remember driving down Disraeli one one afternoon. I was going to the hospital to see her, and I'm thinking about all the things, and then I felt like I couldn't breathe. I felt like my heart was I was getting a panic attack when I think about the huge responsibility that was now mine to carry. I actually had to pull over on this rally. I was like, I thought I was gonna pass out, but that was like my first panic attack, first ever experience with it, and pull over, and people were mad and they were honking, and I could not care less. I just wanted to go to the side and catch my breath. And I didn't know what was happening, right? And so sometimes our thoughts can create that agitation and that anxiety and that overwhelm when we see the weight of the responsibility that's been put on us. So that was now that whole compassion fatigue, that over empathy, caring for someone, all those are pieces that we can identify easily. And that's when I reached out to extended family and say, hey, let's do this. I can't do this on my own, only to end up having to come back and do it on my own. But that's another story for another time. That will be another show. Oh my gosh, things can happen that we don't expect. But in the organization, you have to now look at the different types of burnout that you can face in your workplace. And I want to break down some of the ones that you should be looking for as a leader. So, some of the ones that I want to talk about are things like role ambiguity. So, I'm going to share it in the chat, and I want you to take a look at it and ask yourself, what are some of these that you're facing, right? These are some types of burnout that you should be paying attention to. This is really important because when you do that, you're able to see what they are. So, something like role ambiguity. Well, what is role ambiguity? That's when your job expectations are unclear or constantly shifting. So when employees talk about maybe micromanaging, maybe they have a leader that's inconsistent, that can cause burnout, because what happens is that your anxiety level is always up. You don't know, and your brain that likes to be in that rest mode, likes to predict, likes to know what's coming, is now feeling overwhelmed because I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know what that person is going to do. So if you've ever had one of those bosses who change their mind all the time or change your expectations, so constantly shifting, put you in that place, it's very unhealthy and can affect your mental health. And yes, definitely cause major burnout. So one of the other things that you will see burnout from is toxic workplace burnout. And this is fueled by conflict. And as a conflict analyst, I can't recall for the last 28 years how many departments have gone into, how many organizational conflict where people are just like robots because the conflict has become so toxic and it has created such an unhealthy atmosphere that it takes so much energy for your employees and for your people to actually deal with it, address it. And this is one of those situations that we have to pay very close attention to as leaders. Paying attention to that is just so, so important for people to see that role ambiguity is critical, but also the workplace conflict is also another piece. And that includes the micromanagement, right? Having that micromanagement in the workplace, that inability, maybe disrespect or destructive communication patterns where you're being yelled at or you're being bullied or something autocratic attitude that can also cause that to happen. So something to think about in when you're seeing employees are facing burnout. And then there is change fatigue. This one happens when it's a little bit different from role ambiguity because it's your roles changing, but change fatigue is too many transitioning. So reorganization, new system, new priorities all at once happening, where people lose the ability to adapt because the pace is never, it's never slows down enough for our brain to get to that place of rest to be able to process and feel at ease with the new system. So think about that. So there's some similarity between ambiguity burnout and change fatigue, but whereas the role ambiguity is specific to your job, change fatigue might be even in your organization, maybe it might be departmental wide. It may not have anything to do with your particular role. So you may keep the same role and you may still have change fatigue. Digital and cognitive overload. I mean, we have become more and more aware of that since the, I guess, the creation or maybe the overpopulation of social media and social platforms. We have seen more and more people becoming overwhelmed because of all the overload of social media, that there are too many platforms, too many meetings, too many notifications. And one of the things that I know I did for myself was turn off all notifications on my phone. The only notification that's on my phone is our app that we use for project management. Where an employee needs something now, or one of my team members needs something to complete a project, I want to be notified of that. And they know the hours within which they can connect with me. So if you can connect with me from 7 a.m. in the morning, and then you know that there's a certain time in the evening that I shut down, that I will not respond to messages in on the platform, even if my team is on a different time zone. So you have to create those boundaries and set those limits so you and your team members can function and you can maintain the right type of health and well-being. And then there is the moral burnout. How you're talking about now, this is not moral, this is moral. This is experience when employees are asked to do work that clashes with their values and their sense of integrity. So it's a growing issue in purpose-driven roles, especially leadership. It may have things to do with different elements of inclusiveness, and so finding out where people are at and giving them room to be themselves and not putting too many demands on them, social demands, is very important to keep them from burning out and losing interest and disassociating and then disengaging with work. So this is something that as a leader you should be paying attention to, and also looking at how, and if you're in HR or any a role where you're leading people, this is something to pay attention to, because burnout is not just one thing. There are just so many different elements to it and so many ways we have to look at what's causing burnout and understanding the symptoms, like the not just the symptom, but what is underlying that, what's fueling that. And so let's talk a little bit about why we miss the signs of burnout, because I think often we miss the signs of burnout because we normalize high stress in our society. We call it productivity, being high stress and always on something. It's our norm. People don't even sleep anymore. I don't know what they do, but I need my sleep, right? We confuse hyperfunctionality with resilience. Resilience is not hyperfunctionality. Resilience requires us to manage our pace so we don't become overwhelmed and burned out. We interpret early symptoms as just a cold. I know for myself, it was just the flu, or maybe just a headache. Let me have a nap, right? Of course, that's good. We override those physical signals, and many people they try to dose them with like coffee and tobacco and edible drugs or over the counter um, medication that we take to do like not for me, but some people do, right? So we have to ask ourselves, what am I masking? What are these symptoms telling me that I should do? So it, burnout is a responsibility for the employee and the employer. It doesn't matter how good an environment the workplace provides and the employer provides, but if you as a person, an individual employee, is not doing anything and you're not taking those steps to protect yourself, then and you're masking all the symptoms, that's telling you, hey, slow down, take a breath, pause here. We are missing a big part of our whole natural rhythm. So leaders often feel the responsibility for holding everything together. So they ignore their own capacity and take on more than they should. Parents do it. A lot of mothers do it, especially working mothers, right? We put ourselves last. So here are some simple steps, just 6 steps to overcome, to recognize early signs of burnout and then to address it. So look for those subtle physical changes in your body, changes where you're tightening of your shoulders, where you're clenching your neck and your mouth, or you're feeling that pain in the back of your shoulder from hunching over, typing. I know for me, when we're doing a big push to get a project done, and you can feel the numbness right in your hand. Just not being able to sleep because you can't, your brain isn't resting. You're so excited about this project, you've put so much, so your body is hyper. And so you have to learn how to do breathing and put it down. Then there's this headaches and digestive issues, frequent colds. All of those are signs. I know when my kids call me, they're adults in their lives. When they call me and I'm hearing them sniffling and coughing, I was like, okay, are you taking your supplements? Are you getting enough water? Are you resting? Are you eating non-stress foods? Those are simple, easy things we can just check off right away, and we're missing those signs because they're so important, right? Emotional flatness or sensitivity is also with people who are usually active and engaged. Like for me, I'm always on the go, always. Since I was born, I've been a chatty, and if my family comes in and they see me like this, they know something is wrong. My kids, my son come to me, he's like, you're really quiet. What's going on? Right? They will know because your personality changed. And if you're usually a quiet person, so you're bouncing over the wall, it's an opportunity to ask that person, how are you doing emotionally? Sometimes people get emotionally numb, overwhelmed. All of those things we have to pay attention to. Decline in focus, inability to focus on one thing, because I'm doing, we're multitasking. But when we multitask, we don't get anything done, right? A lot of Another one is loss of joy. And my name is Joyce. I think life is to be joyful. And when you've lost your joy, it's like the salt without no salt. Like, hello, what is life without joy? And there are different ways to enjoy life. And those activities that used to energize us and make us feel really good, they're like heavy and we withdraw, pulling away from connections, support, family members, activities, going out, celebrating. All of those things are things, but and over and above what we feel in our bodies and in our mind, and but looking at overall, because our bodies are, they're temples of well-being, and when it's disrupted, it will send you signs. You will get signs. It's not working with my body and I need to do something about it, because only you can do something about it. And we need to take that responsibility to fix it and to turn this into opportunities for well-being, because you know what, when we miss those early signs of burnout, they stay in our bodies and they damage our cells. And when your cells are damaged, you're more prone to things like cancer and heart disease and all kinds of chronic diseases because we've missed those little signs. So it's so important for us to do our work, identify those little signs and respond to them as quickly as possible. Nobody's gonna die if you take 2 days off work. Nobody's that. Nobody's gonna, if you take a 4 day weekend. Nobody's gonna notice, but your body is gonna miss it. Your cells are gonna miss, is going to feel it, and the opportunity to rejuvenate and rehydrate and get your body back together is so critical and something we shouldn't be missing. So if you haven't heard my burnout story yet, check it out here on YouTube. I have my burnout story. I have shared it not very many times, and because I go so heavy and I do so much, I've had many opportunities to, they say you become an expert when you've made all the errors. I've had many visits with the burnout element, besides the big mighty one that you robbed me from so much. It's not just the dollars. It's not that. It was also that my brother's funeral. I missed the opportunity to go to my brother's funeral, right? This was something that I can never replace. And I share that story and I remember that. And that was something that you have to remember: when you don't pay attention to the burnout, there's a cost to pay. And ask yourself, I've met people who they had to be off work for like 3, 4, 6 months. Some people never able to get back. Some people, it's a massive heart attack. Some people, it's devastating cancer, fast that. So we all are going to get the story, the wake up calls. And when we don't listen to the subtle ones, the headaches that we just pop all these painkillers for, we're not asking ourselves, well, what do I need? The all that we're masking, we need to stop and ask ourselves, what am I missing? What are the underlying signs? And that's why I created the Wiz Resilience platform and the diagnostic tool, because it gives us that wake up call. It gives us that wake up call. It feeds us all that intelligence about our lives and all the things we're not paying attention to. Because truly speaking, we're all darn busy. None of us are paying attention to those things. And when we miss them, we pay the price. So why not being able to go in and assess quickly, get our scores, understand our resilience index, see what we're dealing with, and make some quick changes. Sometimes you just a 2 day rest, a 3 day rest, a week. Because sometimes we go on vacation. I know sometimes say, oh, you need a vacation. But I know for myself, we go on a vacation and we're busy going tourist things, and you're actually tired. So it's really taking that time to wind down in a healthy, slow format, that in a controlled environment that you can. And even if you take vacation, you have that control time as part of it so you can unwind and take care of yourself, because it's so important. So thank you for listening today and for identifying and being here with me and just looking at those elements of burnout. I want you to make a note for yourself, right? Your takeaway from this, watching this video, is that you're going to make a list of the types of burnouts. I put them in the chat and I put them in some in the description as well. Go ahead and take a look at them and ask yourself, which of these am I most prone to? And this is your action steps. And I want to give you these action steps for yourself. Which of these do I need to pay attention to? Which of these, right, do you need to pay attention to? I think we need to pay attention to all of these, but if there's one you think that's more likely to be up in your court or in your alley, then pay attention to it and say, what am I going to do? How am I going to address it? What are some things that I can do? And make a list of 4 or 5 things. And if you sign up for a free trial on the Wiz Resilience platform, you will get access to the coaching hub, where you can reach out to a coach. You can actually Make notes, journal. You can do that for free. You can journal your thoughts on what is happening to your well-being. What are you feeling? Where is burnout happening? And this platform is a resilience ecosystem. It's designed to help you to master your resilience and well-being, and that's the whole goal of it. So go ahead. We are offering some free courses and little brochures and opportunities for you to learn more, develop, and grow and become that amazing, healthy human being that we have the potential to be, because you deserve it. You deserve to live the most compelling life for as long as you should, and you shouldn't burn out and lose your touch and your ability to live a full life before you should. So that's my gift to you. If you have any questions, or you're looking for support, or you're looking for the link for resilience, you haven't find it here in the chat, just message me in our chat. We read all of our messages and we'll get back to you. Take care. Have yourself a wonderful rest of your day. Stay well, my friends. Stay resilient. Pick yourself up, dust yourself up, and don't let burnout burn you down, because you have a fire that's lit and you have things to do on this planet. Till we talk again next time, Tracy.